Hello, I'm Ling Hung from Hanoi, and it's good to see you again on VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. And here are the headlines for this half-hour bulletin. The United States stressed the need for peaceful dialogue on various disputes involving China and the East Sea. Vietnamese welcome international support in EC issue. And then let's take a glimpse into the Vietnam Culture Day in Vladimir City in Russia. White House spokesman Jay Carney said at his daily news briefing on May 14th that although the United States is not party to the EC dispute, President Barack Obama on his recent Asia tour repeatedly stressed the need for peaceful dialogue on various disputes involving China and the EC, and that EC disputes need to be resolved through dialogue, not intimidation.
And our view has always been that these are disputes that need to be resolved through dialogue, not through intimidation. We are not a party to the specific disputes, but we again urge a dialogue in their resolution, and that would apply in this case. Another milestone that's being
on May the 2nd, China stationed the Haiyang Shuyo 981 oil rig 80 nautical miles deep inside Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Besides, it has deployed a large number of ships of various kinds to the area and have repeatedly rammed and fired water cannons into Vietnamese Coast Guard and fisheries surveillance ships.
Scholars have also raised the concern over the activities in the EC. VTV correspondent in the United States recently interviewed Marvin Ott, professor at Johns Hopkins University and senior scholar at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars on this issue. Let's now take a listen.
How do you think about the situation in the South China Sea after China's sending its oil rigs and vessels to Vietnam's EEZs?
The first thing I would say is that it's very predictable. The determination on the part of China to establish control over land and water features in the South China Sea has, from my perspective, been very clear. So the last major incident was with the Philippines at Scarborough Shoals. This is a different kind of initiative, but it's part of the same pattern, and this involves Vietnam, not the Philippines. The next incident like this, could be any one of a number of countries, but probably will be either Vietnam or the Philippines.
China has argued that its oil rig and its vessels are operating in its own water. Meanwhile, international lawyers confirmed that China does not have any right and any reason to introduce its oil rig together with its vessels to Vietnam's EEZ. And you, how do you think about that?
The Chinese think they have a reason. The Chinese believe all of this belongs to China. So that's all the reason they need. What you're referring to is the judgment of almost every outside legal expert that the 9-dash line that I referred to earlier has no legal standing under international law. That's why what the Philippines is doing is very, I'll say clever, very intelligent and significant, because the Philippines is the only country that has actually found a way and has taken the initiative to challenge the Chinese 9-dash line in an international tribunal. That, because, and they've also said they will pay no attention to, but they clearly are paying attention because they know that an international ruling will expose the complete, the lack of legal support that actually exists under international law for the Chinese position. And the Chinese don't want that to happen.
Thank you very much for joining us in this interview.
The Japanese Communist Party has issued a statement on the ongoing dispute in the EC, stating the party's views on the situation. The party believes China's placement of the Haiyang-Shiyo oil rig within the exclusive economic zone of Vietnam is in violation of the declaration on the conduct of parties in the EC that China signed with ASEAN countries in 2002. Party members cited 5 articles from the DOC which require parties to refrain from activities that can escalate tension and affect peace and stability in the region. They further stressed that all involved parties should strictly abide by the DOC. VTV reporters have gone to the waters surrounding Paracel Islands near where the oil rig Haiyang-Shiyo 981 has been unlawfully installed by China in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. VTV reporter Van Dong provided us with more details through a phone call. Let's now take a listen.
We are currently on the Coast Guard ship 4032, which belongs to the Zone 2 Coast Guard of the Vietnamese Coast Guard Command. Today, more Vietnamese ships have been blocked from performing their law enforcement duties on Vietnamese sovereign waters, where China has unlawfully installed the Haiyang-Shiyo 981 oil rig. At 8:15 a.m., the Chinese ship number 31101 spotted a Vietnamese ship, approached it and monitored its movement. At 8:50, a Chinese plane of unknown number flew over Vietnamese Coast Guard ship 4032 and other Vietnamese ships carrying out their responsibilities in the area. In the afternoon at 15:30 hours, Vietnamese ships joined a formation and broadcasted messages of Vietnam's sovereignty. At 16:15 hours, after spotting Vietnamese ships, Chinese ships surrounded them in a fan formation. We noted their numbers are 441, 4401, 3411, and 46001. Afterwards, the ship 46001 came within 200 meters of the Vietnamese ship's 4032. This is the very ship that rammed into the port side of Vietnamese ship 4032, damaging its port side balcony and other equipment on board. The chase ran on for 10 nautical miles before it ended.
VTV reporters who have traveled to the water surrounding Paracel Islands since Tuesday witnessed several Chinese ships threaten and block the law enforcing activities of the Vietnamese Coast Guard on Vietnam's sovereign waters. However, Vietnamese Coast Guard has kept close watch on activities in the EC.
Right behind us is the China Coast Guard 3411, which is protecting China's unlawful installation of the oil rig Haiyang-Shiyo 981 in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Despite the Vietnamese Coast Guard vessels AT-03 using a loud PA system to inform them of their violations since morning, the Chinese ship has persisted in blocking and scaring away the Vietnamese craft, which is doing its duty on Vietnam's continental shelf and exclusive economic zone.
Đây là vùng biển thuộc vùng đặc quyền kinh tế và thềm lục địa của Việt Nam theo luật biển Việt Nam và Công ước Liên Hợp Quốc về luật biển năm 1982. Mọi hoạt động của các vị tại khu vực biển này là trái phép, xâm phạm nghiêm trọng quyền chủ quyền và quyền tài phán của Việt Nam, vi phạm luật pháp quốc tế, nhất là Công ước Liên Hợp Quốc về luật biển năm 1982, đi ngược lại tinh thần tuyên bố ứng xử của các bên ở Biển Đông, yêu cầu các vị chấm dứt ngay mọi hành động và rời khỏi vùng biển Việt Nam.
VTV reporters have been here since Tuesday and have witnessed several Chinese ships threaten and block the law-enforcing activities of the Vietnamese Coast Guard on Vietnam's sovereign waters. On Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., Vietnamese Coast Guard vessel AT-03 spotted a Chinese military ship in the vicinity of the oil rig installation. As it approached the ship, the Vietnamese Coast Guard vessels were chased and Chinese ships came alongside them and blocked their path. Faced with threats, the Vietnamese captain shrewdly steered their craft away and narrowly avoided collision. At 8:50 a.m., at 7 nautical miles or 13 kilometers from the location of the unlawful oil-rich installation. Vietnam spotted a Chinese Scott airplane flying above the Coast Guard ship 8003. In light of this, the Vietnamese Coast Guard organized a meeting to assess the situation and prepare avoidance countermeasures aimed at maintaining regional peace and security.
Máy bay hôm nay là máy bay cánh bằng. Hôm trước đã có xuất hiện ở trên không phận tàu 803 là 3 ngày.
The plane that appeared this morning is a straight-wing one that flew over the ship 8003 3 days ago. This plane is number 8321, and it usually hovers above the Coast Guard's airspace with a low altitude of 350 meters and a high of 800 meters. Each time it circles 2 to 3 times. Meanwhile, on Wednesday afternoon at 2:35 p.m., the Vietnamese Coast Guard spotted 4 Chinese military ships. 2 of them, numbered 998 and 999, were sailing 2.5 and 2.2 nautical miles from Vietnam's ship 8003. The other 2 vessels were rocket escort ships sailing 4.6 and 4.5 nautical miles from ship 8003. According to Vietnamese Coast Guard, on Tuesday and Wednesday, Chinese patrol ships began blocking Vietnamese ships from the outer ring instead of waiting for Vietnamese ships to approach near the unlawful oil-rich installation as they had previously done. When Vietnamese ships approached, several Chinese boats blocked the bow, stern, starboard and port side of Vietnamese ships. At present, Vietnamese fishermen's activity in Vietnam's water around the Paracel Islands are continuing as usual, thanks to the assistance and safeguarding of the Vietnamese Coast Guard and fishery control ships.
Authorities in Vietnam have vowed to protect foreign investors and their assets. This assertion follows the arrest of rioters who took advantage of peaceful marches against China's illegal actions in the EC to sabotage factories of foreign-owned enterprises in the southeastern region of the country on Tuesday. Authorities have called on people to keep calm, act with restraint, and not to commit illegal acts. In the meantime, the Ministry of Public Security has deployed officers nationwide to ensure the safety and security of foreign investors. China's unlawful activities in the EC have drawn heavy disapproval from overseas Vietnamese and foreign supporters of the country. In the following, let's see how the support from the international community has been welcomed.
Now in her 70s, Đức, a resident of Hanoi, has not missed any updates on the EC situation. Apart from information about China's actions, she's interested in the reactions of the international community and overseas Vietnamese.
I'm very interested in the current affairs in the EC. These past days, I've seen a lot of news coverage of the international support for Vietnam. I feel grateful for this support.
Over the past few days, overseas Vietnamese and supporters of Vietnam, including politicians, scholars and social activists, have jointly shown their disapproval of China's oil-rig installment in Vietnamese waters. The support from abroad is appreciated by Vietnamese people.
As a student and young citizen of Vietnam, I really appreciate all the support that I've seen in the international media.
Vietnam is justified in its fight for national sovereignty. People across the world can recognize this, hence the support that they have shown towards Vietnam.
In its past struggles for independence, Vietnam embraced all the support it received from abroad, and it is the hope of the Vietnamese people that they will continue to receive assistance from foreign friends as the country protects its national sovereignty.
The Royal Library of Belgium currently hosts the original copy of Atlas Universal by Philippe van der Meulen, published in 1925. An internationally recognized document, the Atlas proves Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel Islands. More in the following.
The Royal Library of Belgium holds some of Belgium's most important documents, including 4 sets of Atlas Universal. In its 400 pages, Atlas Universal was the first atlas to show the entire landmass of the world on an uniform scale. Known for its scope and accuracy of details, it is hailed as one of Belgium's most valued documents.
This is the first atlas in the world printed by lithography, a process which allowed them to make 1,000 copies of the 400-page atlas in just 3 years. The atlas was sold mainly in Europe to universities, royal libraries, and monasteries. Some copies were even sent as far as Cuba and Guatemala.
Margaret Sylvester has worked at the Royal Library of Belgium for 23 years and is the author of many research projects commissioned by the Royal Library. Her latest project was a 681-page research paper that goes into details about Atlas Universal.
Asia, including Vietnam, is portrayed in these 4 pages, including a small description of the kingdom of An Nam. In this map, the author drew parcel islands. He made side notes about the geographical features of the islands, like the reefs and sandbanks. Even at that time, they were able to measure the locations of the islands quite accurately.
Map number 98 in the atlas goes into details about Tonkin Gulf. This map indicated China's territory as reaching only as far south as Hainan Island and not crossing over the 18 parallel north. The atlas proves Vietnam's sovereignty over the parcel islands. This information is in accord with Chinese maps produced prior to the start of the 20th century, as well as other Western maps.
More to come on VTV News. Myanmar's Minister of Industry called on Vietnamese businesses to invest in Myanmar. We'll then go to Vladimir City in Russia to take a look at how Vietnam Culture Day is held there. Welcome back to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. Myanmar's Minister of Industry, U Myung-min, has met with Vietnamese businesses looking to invest in Myanmar. This is part of his working visit to Vietnam. At the meeting, Vietnamese businesses asked Myanmar to issue new investment guidelines to help investors access the Myanmar market. In addition, the infrastructure in Myanmar needs further development to reduce the cost of water and electricity for businesses investing in the country. The minister acknowledged the contributions of Vietnamese investors to the country and said that they will continue to create favorable conditions for Vietnamese businesses to invest in the future. A collection of documents from the Nguyen dynasty was officially recognized as a heritage artifact by UNESCO's Memory of the World Committee for Asia Pacific. The announcement was made on Wednesday at the ongoing second session of the 6th General Meeting of the Memory of the World Committee for Asia Pacific in Guangzhou, China. With notable value in content, appearance, and style, the Nguyen dynasty document was unanimously upheld by the judges. Following this recognition, the historic value of Nguyen dynasty's document will get to many more people. The Vietnamese Embassy in Russia, in coordination with the Overseas Vietnamese Association, held the Vietnam Culture Day in Russia's Vladimir City on Monday. The event included many overseas Vietnamese as well as Russian supporters from all over the city.
The event started with an exciting lion dance and a Vietnamese traditional costume show, which was performed by hundreds of Vietnamese workers from garment factories all over the city. Many city locals were also keen to participate in the event and get a better understanding of Vietnamese culture.
We Vietnamese have been living in this city for a long time, but this is the first time we've held Vietnamese Culture Day here. Our aim is to introduce our Russian friends to the many great aspects of Vietnamese culture, including its history, arts, and cuisine.
Vietnamese Culture Day also featured art performances from the Vietnamese People's Police Art Collective, as well as the work of many Russian artists in Vladimir City. These art performances help develop the understanding between the local Russian population and the Vietnamese community in Vladimir.
I'm very enthusiastic about this collation of Vietnamese and Russian artists. This kind of activity will bolster the relationship that has been long built between the two countries. I especially like Vietnamese dance, which I find so diverse and elegant. You cannot underestimate its beauty.
What a great show! I've already made plans to visit Vietnam.
The Vietnamese Culture Day in Vladimir was also a good chance for overseas Vietnamese to express their love for their homeland.
I feel very proud to be Vietnamese and participate in this kind of culture today. This event will boost the friendship between Vietnam and Russia.
As part of the event, a petition was signed by hundreds of overseas Vietnamese and Russian friends supporting Vietnam's measures to solve disputes in the East Sea after China's illegal installation of oil rig Hai Yang 981 in Vietnam's waters.
VTV News will now continue with several online news about Vietnam. Burma offers the first news for today. Vietnam and Japan will step up cooperation in wage policy, labor relations, vocational training, social and unemployment insurance, and social welfare for the elderly. To this effect, an agreement was signed between visiting Vietnamese Deputy Minister of Labor, War Invalids and Social Affairs Nguyễn Thanh Hoa and Japanese Minister of Health and Labor Tamura Noriyasa in Tokyo on Tuesday. The Japanese minister will closely cooperate with other Japanese agencies such as the Japan International Cooperation Agency or JICA to promote affiliation with the Vietnamese side. According to VOV Voice of Vietnam, Azerbaijan President Aliyev will pay an official visit to Vietnam from the 18th to the 20th of May at the invitation of President Trương Tấn Sang. President Aliyev will be accompanied by around 50 leading economic companies that want to explore the Vietnamese market. A Vietnam-Azerbaijan business forum will be held in Hanoi on May 19th, offering the two business communities the chance to meet and discuss the possibility of cooperation. Vietnam and Azerbaijan established diplomatic ties in 1992. Azerbaijan opened its embassy in Hanoi in late 2013 to seek ways to boost bilateral cooperation in politics, economics, culture, education, and tourism, among others. According to Vietnamnet Bridge, a 15-minute film by Vietnamese director Hoàng Trần Minh Đức will be screened to compete at the Cannes Film Festival Short Film Corner event held from May 14 to the 24th. The film, titled Tôi 30 or I'm 30, based on the script of Trần Ngọc Sang, depicts the changes a woman undergoes while approaching 30 years of age. The heroine dreams of becoming a film director, but she cannot realize that dream due to various reasons. At 30, she wonders whether she should take up another career. The film offers an open end.
Vietnam and Thailand aims to bring bilateral trade value to $15 billion by 2020. The target was announced at an exchange between Vietnamese and Thai businesses in Ho Chi Minh City on May the 14th. The event provided a good opportunities for the two business communities to meet, establish long-term cooperation, and explore new potential. The gathering helped businesses raise competitive edge on international markets by sharing production experience to meet the increasing demand of global importers. Two-way trade turnover between the two countries rose 9% to $9.4 billion last year. Vietnam has so far invested in 8 projects in Thailand worth more than $12 million. Vietnam television VTV has officially won broadcast rights for the World Cup 2014 at the price of $7 million. The MP and Silva Agency, the exclusive sales representative for the World Cup 2014 media rights in Vietnam, had offered a $10 million deal, but that was out of the price range of many broadcasters who refused to pay that amount. After months of negotiations, VTV agreed to pay $7 million for the exclusive rights to broadcast and exploit World Cup 2014. VTV also hosts the exclusive rights to radio and internet broadcast. Even though MP and Silva lowered the price, it is still the highest amount paid for a World Cup broadcast in Vietnam. The World Cup 2010 was bought at $3 million and Euro 2012 cost $4 million.
Did a weather forecast. And that wraps up our VTV News at this hour. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to go to vtv4.vn or catch us again at 6 p.m. Vietnam time for other updates. And goodbye for now from Hanoi.